So the updated NCAA rankings are out on FloWrestling, and they've created quite a conversation, particularly about the ranking of the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Now, they are currently ranked 8th in our tournament rankings. Now, how do we determine? I'm going to get into a little bit of process and how we do things and ultimately answer the question, why is Oklahoma State a team with a lot of excitement, a lot of firepower that just got 3rd last year? Why are they ranked 8th? First thing you should know for tournament rankings, it's kind of formulaic. You take where they're ranked, and then that has a tournament value. So like first place is worth 20 points because that's what you get at the NCAA tournament. If you win, you get 20. Second, 16, and so on and so forth. So in that way, it's very formulaic. So if there's a gripe with the team tournament rankings, you need to look at the individual rankings and say, hey, this guy should be higher, this person should be higher. That's where your debate truly lies. So you should know that on the front end. Now, some other things to consider when you think about Oklahoma State. They were 3rd last year, and we think they're going to be pretty good this year. I'm with you. I think Oklahoma State's going to have a fantastic year. But let's recall, Wyatt Hendrickson, national champion, graduated. DJ Hamady, national champion, graduated. Dustin Plott, multiple, 4 or 5-time All-American, NCAA finalist, graduated. Cam Amin, All-American, graduated. That's a lot of talent out of your lineup, right? That's a lot of talent that scored points for you at the NCAA tournament that's not there anymore. Okay, so they're replaced with guys, and they're replaced with good wrestlers, don't get me wrong. But they're not going to be ranked in that 1, 2, 3 spot. And those are the spots that really earn the high tournament rankings. So now let's take a look at Oklahoma State and look at the individuals and where they are. And I'll also give the caveat that Oklahoma State is a team with a lot of talent, a lot of questions about their lineup, who goes where, right? And so with that, there's an element of guesswork on our part of who we think Oklahoma State is going to wrestle. And until we know for sure, we don't know for sure. And there's some speculation going on here. So starting at 125, this is pretty simple. Not a lot of griping there. Troy Spratley, returning NCAA finalist. He's ranked 2nd. No complaints there by many people. But then you go to 133, you've got Richard Figueroa. And while 2 years ago this guy was a national champion, this year or last year was a very, very different story. And now he's going up a weight class. And is this his best weight class? That's debated. Sometimes it's like, yeah, he for sure needed to move up. I never looked at Richard Figueroa and said, this guy probably needs to go 133. Now, do I believe he could bulk up and be a well-sized 33-pounder? Absolutely, I do. I fully believe that. Do I believe he has the potential to win a national title this year? I think that's a possibility, right? I'm not ruling that out. But he's ranked 14th, and that's where he needs to be ranked. This is a guy who lost to 2 non-All-Americans last year at the NCAA tournament. He lost to non-ranked guys. He had a lot of losses last year. He missed a bunch of time. He beat only 2 guys that placed last year. And when you lose to Dean Peterson, you lose to Trevor Anderson at the NCAA tournament, you lost to Daugherty at the Big 12s, you're not going to be ranked high, right? And oh, by the way, don't forget that Richard Figueroa was a surprise NCAA champion the year before. He was like the 8 or 9 seed when he won NCAAs in the craziest, most unpredictable 125 tournament ever. So it's not like he had an amazing regular season the year before that, right? Richard Figueroa has struggled to find consistency in his wrestling. So he's ranked 14th right now. He has an unbelievable potential to get much higher. Do I think he's a guy that's going to finish 14th or in the outside the round of 12? I don't. But this is where he needs to be ranked right now. Then we go to 141. Tegan Jamison was outside of All-American status last year, but he's ranked 7th. That's pretty fair, right? He beat some good guys. He took some losses last year. And there's a lot of guesswork here. We put him at 41 because he was their starter last year. But they've got Sergio Vega. They've got some talent coming in that is potentially going to contend. And Cale Hughes is not going anywhere. I don't think he's likely going to be there at 33 because he had a hard time making that weight. So they got 3 really good guys there. We went with Tegan. He's the highest ranked guy that you could put in at Oklahoma State. That doesn't mean he's their best option. And I'll also mention this because you can't, Oklahoma State's probably going to do better than 8th. That doesn't mean this ranking was wrong. And also another thing you have to consider, this is probably going to be a different lineup because of the roster battles. And one thing we've learned about David Taylor, he wants to wrestle his best team. We saw that throughout last year, right? Think about they weren't going to wrestle Caleb Fish. Teague Travis got hurt. Caleb, you're in. You're going down 157. Fish couldn't wait, and he wrestled, and he ended up All-American. Oh, I forgot, Caleb, also All-American last year, and is now graduated. So that's just another guy they've got to replace. And so, and we also saw that at a couple other weight classes, right? Where someone gets hurt, they slide someone in. They want to wrestle their best lineup, and I think that's what we're going to see this year from Oklahoma State. And so at 149, we think it'll be Casey Swiderski, transferred from Iowa State. He's getting healthy. He's ranked number 6 right now. Could he be 5th ahead of Sammy Alvarez, who he beat? I wouldn't argue with that. But 6th, 5th, it's not a big difference in the team points those ultimately will earn. Now, can Casey Swiderski, the real question for Oklahoma State is, can Casey slide up to be a top 3 or 4 guy? That's something we have not yet seen from Casey in his career. And for Oklahoma State, you know, your fans, you're hoping you can see a little bit more out of Casey than we saw from him at Iowa State, right? But he was pretty good at Iowa State. He got on the podium in a really tough weight class. Can he do it for Oklahoma State? I think 7th or 6th is a good ranking for him. Teague Travis was at 149 last year after missing. He's a NCAA qualifier guy. He's not really been, on the podium. Ranked 17th. He didn't have a lot of elite wins last year. That's about where you land. Now, 157 is maybe the most interesting weight class. If you're looking for a weight where they're going to massively outperform their preseason ranking, it might be this one, because you could see Landon Rabadou here. That's someone who we've been watching on the freestyle scene. You watch him at Who's Number One and other high school matches. You know this guy is ready to rock, right? And then, oh, by the way, maybe do we see D. Lockett here? Another stud recruit for the Cowboys who will be a true freshman next year, who has said, I want to win the NCAA tournament next year. Now, he's been saying at 165, we'll get to 165, and maybe we see D. Lockett there. But it's possible for lineup synergy, D. Lockett maybe goes down to 157. Maybe he's the guy. And if he is, and if Landon Rabadou is, I think those are top 8 guys, maybe top 5 guys. But true freshmen, the information you look at for our rankings, it's NCAA wrestling results, wins and losses. That's it. D. Lockett has none, right? Landon Rabadou has none. So they're not really rankable yet. If they wrestle early in their season, they'll be ranked really quickly. And I think that's an opportunity for Oklahoma State to make up a lot of ground in the team tournament rankings, is by wrestling one of these true freshmen right away. It's just a question of who would that be. Then you go up to 165. I slotted in Alex Facundo. This is the weight class where he was an NCAA qualifier 2 years ago for Penn State. He was a guy ranked in the top 8 much of that year. He beat Cam Amin. He beat Carson Hartzler. He's been solid. He did not have a good NCAA tournament. He went 0-2, losing to 2 guys that did not end up placing. So he's not ranked very high right now. But still, a guy that's never placed, who hasn't won a match at the NCAA tournament, ranked 7th. That's pretty fair. Zach Ryder up at 174. We're sliding him down, right? He's wrestled at both weight classes. The thought was he was going to slide in for Penn State this year at 184. They bring in Rocco Welsh. Ryder says, see you later. I'm going to Oklahoma State, reuniting with my old club coach, David Taylor, and let the chips fall where they may. Zach Ryder has never lost in college. He won the Southern Scuffle, which is quite a feat for a true freshman. Does not have the wins to be ranked much higher. And being ranked 9th, that's pretty fair for a guy who's only beaten a handful of ranked guys in his NCAA career. But this is another opportunity for a guy that could definitely jump levels and wind up being starting preseason outside the podium in rankings and very well end up in that top 5. So this is another weight where I could see Oklahoma State making up ground. Then 184, we slotted in Braden Thompson. That's a question. Maybe it's Jersey Rob. I don't know. But Braden Thompson, when Ryder transferred in, went in the portal right after that. And then decided, you know what? I'm not going to leave. I'm going to stay. And I think he's probably staying because he feels he's got a good shot to start at 184. I think that's the best weight. He wrestled 2 years ago, was like 12-11 for the Cowboys, NCAA qualifier, but was pretty big for the weight. I think 184 is probably his best weight class. And so I think this is where we see him try to make the team, 184, along with Jersey Rob, who's a really tough, guy, also from Oklahoma. So we'll see what they do. That's my guess. But yes, 184 is probably his best weight class. And so I think this is where we see him try to make the team, 184, along with Jersey Rob, who's a really tough guy also from Oklahoma. So we'll see what they do. That's my guess. But yes, Braden's ranked 17th. Hard to get much higher based on his resume. And then in 11th, there's a lot of excitement about Cody Merrill, but doesn't have the elite wins. He did beat Isaiah Salazar from Minnesota. He has beat some guys, but if you look at the guys ranked ahead of him, they just have better results at this point. That's not to say, if you're asking me, Christian Piles, do I think Cody Merrill is going to finish in the round of 12 next year? No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he ends up on the podium. But right now, based on the results, that's where he needs to be slotted. Then you have Connor Doucette, who's been a solid guy in the past, was behind Wyatt Hendrickson last year, and now he'll be back in the mix for the Cowboys. And so I think Connor Doucette is someone that can wind up on the podium. If you look at the guy, he's beaten guys who have gone on to be All-Americans, but I don't know if he has a win over a guy who ended up placing that year. So that's going to be a new step for Connor Doucette. I do think he's going to be the guy. So this is a really good team. Oklahoma State's really, really tough. They have a lot of guys with a lot still to prove, right? They've proven it at some level in wrestling, high school level, freestyle, but now it's the time for these guys to prove themselves at the NCAA folk style level. I think the roster management for Oklahoma State is going to be one of the most consistent storylines throughout the season because of how much talent Coach Taylor has accumulated in Stillwater right now. And now I didn't even mention a guy like J.J. McComas, who's been waiting in the wings, right? They've got Sergio Vega, Landon Robert, D. Lockett. A lot of talent in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And it's going to be fun to see where they end up finishing the season, who ends up being their starters, all the changes that they go through. But I'm curious, for your perspective, what do you think about their ranking? Do you think they're going to finish higher? Are there some weights where, hey, FloWrestling messed up? I don't do the rankings, but I did them for a long, long time, going back to 2012. And I did them for, 6, 7, 8 years. So I know what goes into it. It's a lot of work. And yeah, sometimes mistakes are made. So let me know what you see from the Cowboys. What do you think about Oklahoma State's ranking coming into this season?